What's going on, guys? This is Miasin, and today I'm not alone. I'm actually here with a legend.
Alright, so my name's Tommy Rell. I'm excited to do this new series with Yassine. I've just been recently doing YouTube. I try to do at least a video like every 2-3 days, sometimes twice in one day. I'm pretty busy. I go to Ohio State. I'm graduating this semester for business. In terms of Yu-Gi-Oh, what have I done? I've gotten second at 2 YCSs. I've gotten second at Nats, so I've went to Worlds. I won a $25,000 tournament, and I also won an ARG Circuit Series, and I have like a lot of tops, so that's pretty cool.
You're basically the silver god. Second place sensei, but you will get that gold eventually. Alright, so today we will be analyzing Phantom Knight Brave against Eldlich, and before this video starts, guys, please go check out Tommy Rowe's channel. It will be in the link down below. This guy makes really high quality content, and also, like I said, he's a pro player, so if you want analysis done by the best, better than me, go check him out. He's the GOAT. And now let's jump right into it. So we actually have Eldlich, which is a trap deck, against a combo deck, which is Phantom Knight Brave. Which deck do you think is the most favored for the dice roll?
So I think it's pretty even, actually. So this is one reason I loved Eldlich is just because it's so strong going first. It feels like it's almost unbeatable. And then one cool thing about it going second versus PK is you do not have to worry about Scythe because you play a bunch of traps. You're not going to extra. Unless you play the Cyber's Gadget build, which Impermanence is really good versus that because you save it for the Verte, or if you're worried about them already having Fusion Destiny, you just save it for the Dagda because they only play one Scythe compared to 2 Fusion Destiny. I think both decks are just really strong going first, just because PK, you're still going to get the Pot of Greed, and then you're going to have, what, double Fog Blade, and those have some utility against Eldlich. I mean, they still prevent your guys from dying because you can still use it on the Golden Lord.
Exactly. So I also believe that Eldlich, especially if it's the pure build, probably going to have a better time than like the more combo-esque versions, because at least you don't lose to like Valor Imperum. You only really lose to Ash, but I mean whatever. And if you have like 4 traps and only your Extravagance got ashed, you can resolve like a Floodgate, and that would maybe be enough to like shut down Phantom Knight Brave, or at least make them play slower. So because of that, Eldlich is very good when it wins the dice roll, and Phantom Knight Brave, even though Artifact Scythe is not necessarily going to be super relevant in that matchup, it still sets up like so much else to the point where it's going to be hard for Eldlich to come back. So the die roll is definitely a 50-50 for both Eldlich and Phantom Knight Brave.
Yeah. And then, I mean, one cool thing about Eldlich, at least, is if you really want to just like make your deck to focus on just one matchup because you think everyone's going to play PK Brave, you can definitely play more counter cards. Like you're able to play Lancia. You can get away with even playing Dimension Shifter, right? So that's a really good card.
One pretty interesting thing is that against Phantom Knight, if they break like crazy and they go activate Fusion Destiny and you chain D-Shifter, all the materials go to the Banished, and then the Phoenix Enforcer has to die on the next end phase because of the Fusion Destiny. It also gets banished, and there's no recursion at all. Like, Fusion Destiny loses so incredibly hard to D-Shifter, it actually makes no sense.
Yeah, it's one of the strongest hand traps, I think, right now, if your deck can play it.
Yeah, and you can at least, like, maybe side deck it in Eldlich, but one pretty interesting thing that we've, kind of seen over the... I don't know if it's necessarily the years or months, is that Eldlich is actually not even trying to main deck hand traps, and it's also not even trying to side hand traps right now. It's rather trying to side Lava Golem. How good do you think Lava Golem would be over hand traps, for example, against Phantom Knight Brave?
I mean, considering the new adventure package, Lava Golem's pretty strong, and but it is going to hinder your going first turns. You could draw Lava Golem, and that's just literally a brick. Definitely not strongest Torrential Tribute, not that you would play it over that card. But I do think Lava Golem's strong just because it gets rid of that Omni Negate and the DP at the same time, so that's a lot of value.
Yeah, I think if the Wandering Griffin Rider hits the graveyard just once, you can't recycle it back at all. You can only, like, search it again because it shuffles back itself into the deck, but once it hits the grave, then there's pretty much nothing you can do. But Lava Golem tributing over the Phoenix Enforcer is pretty cool. Like, you'd rather have that again, like, over, let's say, maybe a Valor or something. So I feel like Lava Golem sometimes is usually better than just a one-of-hand trap.
I think there's a lot of times where Spear Mode does the same thing, but I do think people really slow play versus Eldlich just because they don't know how do I play around every trap in the game. That's what they're thinking about. So a lot of the times you go into time, and that Lava Golem could even be clutch.
Yeah, the psychology aspect is pretty huge with trap decks, I want to say. It's just
Yeah,
people
it's
panic
hard.
so yeah, people panic so much against traps. It's crazy.
That's why I didn't like playing the deck, to be honest, just because my opponents would take forever, and I just have 5 cards set. I'm just like, just do something.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Yeah, and especially when you have to go in time with a deck that just doesn't burn or anything. It's even worse than when you're playing like Sky Striker, for example. You summon Kaina and you win.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
consistency, what would you say? Do you think Eldlich or Phantom Knight Brave is the most consistent?
I think they have similar problems. So besides the fact that multiples in Eldlich can just be so bad, like the perfect hand is usually one of each trap, or even second with the Golden Lord and the actual engine cards. PK, although people think it's not that consistent anymore, I mean they cut Graph, they cut Seer, so they got an extra E-Telly, so it's the most consistent combo deck there is. It's way more consistent than Virtual World to me, so I think it's strong.
Yeah, it's very consistent. Now, one thing about Eldlich is that even if it is consistent and it gets to its engine, on top of relying on that, you're also relying on having strong enough interruptions to stop the opponent's deck. So if you draw, like, let's say, like, triple Conquistador and double Hakuero, yeah, sure, you can eventually play Yu-Gi-Oh! After, like, 10 years, but that's completely irrelevant. If you have, like, let's say, Scarlet with Conquistador and Hakuero, again, you snowball very well, but you're interrupting your opponent twice, and the interruptions aren't, like, that explosive, so that's a big issue with Eldlich, to be honest.
One thing to note is just how much more powerful this deck is going blind. So they're going to do the usual scythe play. Maybe a lot of people do that standby phase, draw phase, because they're trying to play around droplets. They're not going to be able to get that insane advantage when you're going second, because if they do know what you're playing, they're going to be able to summon the Phantom Knight from Grave, pop a trap, DPE, pop a trap, on their turn, pop a trap. So that's very disadvantageous. You could be losing like 3 cards, and then that's pretty much the game itself. But if you bait them, make them think you're playing a different deck, maybe your tokens are out on the table, they think you're playing Sword Soul. The aspect of you being a blind deck, them not knowing they're going to do the scythe play is just really relevant. So in Top Cut, that could actually be a big concern.
Yeah, like you can literally go from like, oh no, I'm under like 3 interruptions to I'm only against 1 because Scythe is just exactly as we established a non-factor. We don't really have to care about that. And the Brick Sword summoned to the Rusty Zone would have been like devastating to a back row. Unless, of course, it's like a Scarlet or a Conquistador or Hakuero. That's kind of something that I really like a lot with Eldlich. It's that one deck that can get like end phase Twin Twistered, and you can still have like 5 back row on end phase. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it does. Like, those blind hits do matter. If you hit the wrong ones and I still got my floodgates, we're in there.
That's probably one of the biggest factors also, what determines what is a meta deck or not.
And I love Tex and Eldlich just because traps can just take advantage of your opponent's misplays like nothing else. That's why I love BA in the past. I just thought people messed up so much versus me, so it gave me such an advantage. That's why I think Eldlich is winning so many local tournaments, case tournaments. It's just strong in that aspect.
It's funny, actually, because trap decks can be piloted by very, very beginner players, just like it can be piloted by extremely good players, and you actually see a huge difference. It's not just like, oh, Monkey, set 5 pass, no brain cells. It can be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's actually the exact opposite. It's all interactions. But, I mean, the floodgates are what give it that perception.
Yeah.
I think trap decks get too much hate for that, or at least Eldlich as a deck.
Phantom Knight Brave, they can do a lot to kind of destroy Eldlich, and I want to get into that later on, but do you think Eldlich has any inherent blowouts that are completely unfair for Phantom Knight that are usually insta-win?
Gozen is super strong, right? Just because it's an attribute card, and most of the cards are dark, and even if they're gonna get that Omni Negate, you're gonna have a card for the Omni Negate, and that just gets rid of the token and the wind, because the token's earth, the Omni Negate's wind. You're still going to be fine with one trap.
That's the beauty of cards like Rivalry, Gozen, There Can Only Be One, is that they're not only cards that prevent further plays from happening, but also cards that actually break boards in a certain way. It's not like Summon Limit, because Summon Limit, obviously a lot of people commenting, every single trap deck should main deck Summon Limit. And to a certain extent, I mean, yeah, true, the card is overpowered, but if you're going second with something like Summon Limit, you're not doing anything. When you're building a trap deck, you want it to be as good going second as possible.
Yeah, and that's what you see a lot with Tikvu, Rivalry, Gozen, Skill Drain. Even before Imperial Order was good, any turn that card's good.
Speaking of skill drain, there's actually something pretty interesting about the card. You can be under skill drain when you play Phantom Knight and still be able to play. You don't necessarily lose to skill drain even if you don't draw back removal. The reason for that is because Cherubini is a very well-worded card that doesn't send for effect, but rather for cost. So you can send the Aquamancer, banish it, get the Rite of Aramesia, and then get your token, get your Journey of Destiny, and the next time you normal or special summon, you get the Equip spell, and then you get to bounce back the skill drain.
Yeah, you have to keep that Equip spell in mind, because it's just so good versus Floodgates. Yeah, I mean, it's an inherent out to Mystic Mine, which is such a powerful card.
I'll be 100% honest with you. I think the Equip spell might be one of the best cards in the engine, even though it's like the worst. But the reason why I like it so much is because it makes it so the engine doesn't lose to Retaliating Sea anymore, and it doesn't lose to like random BS. Like imagine if you go Rite of Aramesia to try to summon the token, you get hit by Retaliating Sea. Your combo becomes like infinitely worse because now you're under a Macrocosmos. It would have been like very bad. And Beat Trooper can main deck Retaliating Sea. So if that was, if that was like a common factor and everybody had to play without the Equip spell, everybody would be playing Beat Trooper to counter, Brave Phantom Knight. But now that's just not the case.
I've tried to go over like every card, what's good versus PK, and that Equip spell like is such a problem when you're trying to address PK.
Yeah.
I literally just did a video about it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's almost like not a single one card that deals with everything. You always need more than one card. It's so weird.
Yeah, especially with that Omni Negate. They plus so much.
Yeah, the Omni Negate just makes it, I want to say, even worse. But one funny thing about Phantom Knight, honestly, you know what? Let's just extrapolate and just say combo against trap decks in general. Let's just say combo goes first. I feel like the trap decks can actually lose to a combo deck even if the combo deck didn't make a single like actual negate or interruption, because trap decks actually kind of face like an uphill battle when they are under the pressure of like big monsters. For example, you can play a board of like 5 Beals, and obviously Beals would do like nothing against like a combo deck. You don't care. It's not an interruption, but against like a trap deck, it's still pressure. So you're like sitting there and you're like, I need to use my trap cards either to survive or to like waste them just to bounce back or banish the Beals. And it just never really trades very well. You can literally play against a Phantom Knight Brave that doesn't even end on the Wandering Griffin Rider because it had to negate a hand trap, and you might still lose there.
Yeah, this is where I feel like Eldlich might need to include hand traps, just because, I mean, versus even another hard matchup, Prank Kids, another PK, they can play around Skill Drain, they can play around a lot of cards, they can even play around Ash, but if you do have the Ash and they can't play around it, that usually shuts down their whole turn, and that can be what you need to actually stay in the game going second. Because in a simplified game state, your Golden Lord engine is going to win you the game over, because you're just getting too much advantage from that graveyard.
Yeah, so Eldlich is just in a bad spot because it has to do like too much to win. And that's the reason why I think it's, even though it's a very, very good Game 1 deck, I want to say you can almost say that to like pretty much every single trap deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! They're usually very aggressive in Game 1 because you almost always need a side deck to like be guaranteed to beat the trap decks. It just has to worry about way too many things after Game 1. And that's actually the next topic.
Yeah, I definitely think it's just like a meta call. Like especially if you know what everyone in your tournament's playing, then Eldlich might literally be the best deck for that tournament, but it depends how well you know what the tournament's going to be, what the showout's going to be.
That's true. Yeah, meta call is probably the best way to summarize it. I think, honestly, if Phantom Knight Brave can just literally summon Phoenix Enforcer, Eldlich is under just way too much pressure, even if the Phoenix Enforcer gets Kaiju'd. Like, Celestial Draw 2 is already unfair pressure for, like, Eldlich. It forces you to, like, preemptively flip Scarlet and Hakuero, which is already 2 cards that you're showing. You only have 3 mysterious cards, and your opponent still has, the Brave token, the Equip spell, can bounce back another card, and then can get the Wandering Griffin Rider, summon it, negate another card. Now you only have 1 back row. See? You're under pressure in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, the game 2 and 3 is hard when they know what you're playing. That's why you gotta seal it. You gotta seal it game 1. That's your best spot. That's when I feel like Eldlich is the best game 1. Game 2 and 3 is gonna be harder because they get to decide all that spell and trap removal, that red reboot that they have ready for you.
The Saki one of red reboot that people always draw skillfully.
Yeah, Well, I mean, one problem about Eldlich is they give you time to draw those cards. You know, I've been under anti-spell with the PK. I set my Cosmic, and then I wait till I get my red reboot. I get my red reboot, Cosmic the Floodgate. They chain Solemn Judgment. I go red reboot, and that's the game.
4,000 life points and you can't protect yourself. That's exactly what I was gonna say for game 2 and 3. I want to say it's kind of obvious that Phantom Knight Brave just has a big advantage because of the back removal and stuff, but the only thing that Eldlich really has is like the ability to side in like Solemn Judgment if it's not already main decking the card, which I think it should not be main decking the card. It's making your game 1 probably worse if you have to go second, because Judgment, paying 4,000 life points to just stop like an extra play on top of everything else that your opponent was able to do, I think you might as well just play Torrential Tribute at this point. You're barely negating spells and traps going second, unless it's like main deck Duster. But in game 2 and 3, even if you hate the card, you're pretty much forced to, because now that there is Lightning Storm, Evenly, Duster, etc., you're under just way too many one-card win conditions.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I think Eldritch have going for it is just people gravitating to spell or trap removal that's not as polarized. So like cards like Lightning Storm are now Cosmic Cyclones just because of Scythe. So that's really the only big advantage I think they have, because a lot of the builds I see aren't even playing the adventure package, so that wouldn't be a new bonus, right? Would be if you're playing the Cybers gadgets, because then now you can't get impermed, but...
Yeah. Do you think the Adventure Eldlich with Phoenix Enforcer potentially might be the best build of Eldlich, or you think it's really pure 100% just traps?
I think the pure version's more consistent and the other one's more powerful. So when we get into top cut, is it going to matter that you know that I'm playing the adventure package with Scythe, DPE, and the Cybers gadgets? Probably not, because if I draw my adventure with my combo, that's game, you know?
Yeah.
Regardless of what you have.
That's true. It just feels kind of weird to play a lot of combo cards in a trap deck that can't even play hand traps. Like, sometimes you just try to do something going second, or even going first, you get ashed or hand trapped or whatever. You basically just have to set all your traps and pass, which is still not too bad, honestly. Now, if Phantom Knight goes first in game 3 and Eldlich goes second, as we said, you're screwed. Because let's just say you Lava Golem the Griffin or the Brave token in this situation.
Yeah, because they're probably going to have the Equip spell on their Brave token, but I would still, just like you said with the recursion, they can't get the Omni Negate back after you do that. I would probably do the Omni Negate and the DPE, because no one's going to get their DPE engraved. But
yeah, the DPE is a given, but obviously the Brave token, it's so scary because of the Equip spell. And the Griffin Rider, obviously, it really depends, because they might have another Rite of Aramesia with like a surplus Aquamancer that they had in the hand or graveyard, so they can banish it to get another Brave token. If you Lava Golem the Brave token, they can get another Brave token, and then the Wandering Griffin Rider kills you. Or you Kaiju the Wandering Griffin Rider, and you get bounced back by the Equip spell. So you're always a loser regardless.
yeah, because the Fateful Adventure will just add another one. It is interesting, though, just because, I mean, that Equip spell is going to be a bounce anyway, so, you know, that's pretty annoying. And the Break Sword still probably, or the Rusty Blade's still probably going to destroy one of your cards by specialing the Break Sword back. So it's very awkward. That's why I thought maybe the Sphere mode would actually be really good, just because you actually kind of need that extra monster, right? But versus other decks, Lava Golem's probably going to be better, like Sword Soul. But the only caveat to that is people in other decks still even play around Lava Golem, so maybe you just go bust and grab the Sphere mode for your side deck.
I guess one thing about Lava Golem is that you can draw multiples and Lava Golem multiple times. So you just have like a little bit more flexibility. You can technically Lava Golem your opponent for 4 monsters, whereas Sphere mode, it has to be exactly 3. Lava Golem, it's like 2 to 4. Is that like a good enough argument? I don't know, I can't tell. Personally, my opinion is that Phantom Knight Brave against Eldlich, just for the whole match, wins at a 60 or 65% favor. What do you think?
Unless the Eldlich, which I don't know what they would have to play, like we said, Dimension Shift or Lancia, unless they're playing like those cards that really give them advantage in this matchup, which they desperately need, I would say it's like, yeah, as far as 70-30 without those cards.
70-30, yeah, that's even
PK
worse for
strong.
Eldlich.
Yeah, PK strong.
PK strong, yeah, it's just inherently designed to like beat everyone. Like it obviously destroys combo, but the thing is, it's not like it had to compromise its matchup against the other decks to do it. And that's the thing that makes PK Brave just such a nasty deck. And
And plus, I mean, like we said, it's different for the game. So like Eldlich could be even like 75-25 game one, but game two and three are just so favored for PK with that side deck. I mean, and the fact that they know what you're playing, it just helps them so much more.
I guess there is the argument of, oh yeah, you can use Lord of the Heavenly Prison, but in a world where you're trying to play Cosmic Cyclone to beat the Scythe, like at this point, the Lord of the Heavenly Prison isn't protecting you much. Your cards are getting banished anyways, not destroyed. I don't know.
That's definitely a good point.
You only really have Solemn Judgment, and Solemn Judgment is a protect the castle card. Like, it protects your floodgates. It doesn't really, like, hurt your opponent, technically. Like, yeah, sure, you can negate the summon of whatever, Cherubini, Rusty, whatever, but your opponent can recover from these kind of negates.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, Solemn Judgment's good going first, but there's a lot of cards good going first and second. I mean, if I draw the Dimension Shifter going first or second, I don't care. And that is a floodgate, so even more goodness.
Yeah. Another question that I have, do you think Eldlich, in order to have a better win rate against Phantom Knight Brave, will have to kind of deck build itself specifically just to beat Phantom Knight Brave? Or do you think there might be a way that it beats Phantom Knight Brave at a higher percentage without having to make its deck, like main deck, way too awkward?
If I were to play Eldlich, I probably would. Considering I think PK Brave is going to be the most played deck, you have to put in a lot of outs to that. Especially if you're planning to make top cut. Last format we saw at the YCS, it was majority like, 9 Sword Souls, like 7 Leerless Try. So knowing that, it's just better to prepare for those decks. And right now I think that's like PK, Prank Kids, Sword Soul, those are the prevalent decks. So if you can hit all 3 of those at the same time, that's best bet. But you do sometimes need like the specific cards just for what is like definitively the best deck that everyone's thinking.
Yeah. I want to say sometimes that's the mentality that allows like very good anti-meta decks to exist. You can anticipate what people are going to play, so it's easy to just be like, oh, I'm gonna build a deck that specifically beats that deck. The issue is that you start losing to like random decks out of nowhere, or your deck becomes too bricky.
Yeah, I mean, even Evil Swarm was great versus Dragon Rulers, but versus the Spellbooks, you're done. So you gotta hope you only play against one deck, you know?
Congratulations, your OPL is a Garnet, almost. I think we both agree on the fact that Phantom Knight Brave takes this one, but I want to see what you guys in the comments actually think about this matchup. Before this video ends, of course, again, huge, gigantic shoutouts to Tommy Rose. The actual man mid the legend, went to Worlds, got second at 2 YCSs, one of them being the most recent one in the Remote Duel YCS. And like I said, his YouTube channel will be in the description box below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So again, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you.